There are street armies, drenched in blue or red, colored like capillaries, fighting for their lives in vain. Like cavalries, used to march in unison towards freedom, and there was such a thing as a non-violent war criminal. We have been breeding kings and queens, but not chess. See, this game between blacks and whites is more like the Othello type. The way whites flipped whips and blacks had to turn over their life. But see, this ain't no board game, this is life, but not as we know it, because to know it, you need proof to show it, and clearly textbooks and pictures aren't doing the jobs. You see, we complain about our rights to own property when we obviously don't know what it feels like to be proper, and ironically, everyone wants the backseat to the bus when those weren't the ones Rosa was in prison for. So what were the Greensboro for, sit-ins for? And when we say, fuck being served knowledge, we'd rather be skipping this class than sitting in class, and now jail cells have become the only places where sit-ins are committed, resulting in our breeding of orphans. Being inducted into a society without parenthood, just brotherhood, so the neighborhood does what the mother should. There are Simbas being raised in a concrete jungle by nothing but their pride, and I wonder why. We all just settle for the valleys when one has already been to the mountaintops. We should be following him to the mountaintops, singing hymns to the mountaintops, using our pins to the mountaintops with tributaries of ink bleeding from our river of thought. There should be nothing stopping our flows because, yo, we have been breeding hip-hoppers, showstoppers, beatboxers, and pocklockers, and graffiti artists that made trains seem like tie-dyed chain links that held the whole world together. Those building murals were the only crimes in the whole city, with just one side to the story. And while they told stories like cavemen MCs with their Adidas tongues do the talking, while B-boys would communicate through body language, and DJs would talk with their hands, and I understand. Believe it or not, I am not black. But my peers and my president are, so the least that I could do is show respect to a culture that has been unifying friendships and nations for centuries, because we have been breeding a culture that has bred me, and I understand that the present is a gift you may only receive if the past is appreciated. So if our yesterdays have been breeding our todays, and our todays will breed our tomorrows in order to nourish our futures, we must understand the parents of our past and understand that black history is like black soil, rich and fertile, growing seeds of success and individuality. You see, black history is more than just black history, it's red, white, and blue history as well. I celebrate every night as I sleep and dream, like Martin once did, and I realize that when he died, 1,000 kings were born. Thank you. This is my infatuation poem. Dear reoccurring dream character, I got your call last night, but I really couldn't make out your message. But if my waking memory serves me right, I'm sorry to hear that no one understood your compassion, but I'm glad to hear that the drinks were strong. And you mentioned something about a girl who spoke in timid whispers and wore her dress like it was a freedom of speech. She's the one I've been telling you about. I want you to do something for me. I want you to find out how she manages to slip into my dreams, cloaked in vibrant shades of innocence, surpassing all logical checkpoints of reason. She's clever. She comes in the night and dances with my respiratory rhythms like some indigenous ritual, giving thanks to the trembling earth as it shakes. She picks up the vibrations of love from her feet to her thighs. You see, she has thighs that echo like thunder in the gaps of my mind as it grows to her hips, you see. Got it. Her hips will sway like desperate prayers spoken by sailors lost in a seductive sea. At the mercy of reality's winds and drowning in their broken-hearted minds, her hips are like a lifeline from heaven. Got it. 5'3" swells of truth in an ocean of deception. Each movement a gasping expression of freedom, each whisper an illusion of destiny. She breathes in all the colors of the setting sun and exhales all the flavors that leave my mind curious. Not confused, but curious, like that damn monkey from that book with the man in the yellow hat. I would climb her like a tree to the top of her highest canopy and pick the ripest fruit in her mind, just so I can taste a little bit of sweetness the way nature intended it to be. Free and pure, nothing artificial here, no additives, no preservatives, no plastic wrap, just an endless list of ingredients that seem to come together and cook up the kind of life that is good for the soul. You can say that she is a master of culinary hearts. You see, I would dine at her restaurant every night for the rest of my life, taking out a cognitive credit card and living in emotional debt just so I can afford that VIP table in the terrace of her ribcage, and it's there I would sit, Right beneath her left breast, with a knife in my right hand and a fork in the left, I would eat my own heart out and savor every sweet morsel of it with hopes that one day I could share it with her and maybe she too would love it. But I forgot. She's a vegetarian, so maybe instead of skin break bread on the sheets of her bed, lay tangled and twisted in the fabric of time, dream under the influence of each other's mind as I run my fingers from the small of her back to the top of her spine, just so I can taste a little bit of sweetness the way nature intended it to be.
Yes.
Free and pure.